I understand a logical game plan going up against the Cowboys would be, let's just run the ball.
Run the ball.
I appreciate that. I really do. But when you have Malik Nabers already,
throw the ball.
Yeah, don't you just look at, regardless of what the matchup is, you're like, I think we can figure it out. Let's just throw the ball up to him and see what happens.
I think you run the ball to set up the big play to Malik Nabers. And yes, dude, the guy, when I was watching him, Kevin, he was the second receiver for me behind Marvin Harrison Jr. And I could have argued definitely that I would like him just as much. I think, as a matter of fact, I told you multiple times.
Yes.
This Malik Nabers kid might be the best one in the thing if it wasn't for Harrison Jr. Because I thought Harrison Jr. was pro-ready. Malik Nabers just has so many dynamic abilities. You run to set it up. Because you're going to get most of your productive yards attempting to run against this Dallas Cowboys defense. Now, the question on that is, can the Giants run successfully like the last two teams have? Like, are they capable of being that type of running team? Devin Singletary is very good.
Yes.
And they have a couple of different backs that they can work with there that they can utilize to go out there and run against the Cowboys. But can they produce the way that the Saints did and produce the way things went last week with Baltimore? I don't know. But you're running to set up the big play to Malik Nabers. And that's where the Cowboys secondary has to be very present and understanding of, look, at some point it's going to happen. We can't just blindly go down there and crash.
I'm not here to argue that Daniel Jones is taking off in the world, but maybe that Trevor Lawrence deal is going to look worse than his is. Daniel Jones in his last 2 games, 4 touchdown passes, 0 interceptions.
Okay.
Don't worry about what happened in the first game.
Hold on. Daniel Jones in his last 2 games, 0 interceptions.
Correct.
Daniel Jones' off-target rate is 21%. So 21% of the time, he is off target for the throw that he's trying to make.
Not so off target it goes to the other team.
Or so off target that it doesn't go to either one of them.
You know, you make a fair counterpoint, and I probably can't dismiss
his
that.
Adjusted completion rate is 71.4%, which is 27th in the league. So he's the worst, dude.
But no, you said 27th, not the worst.
He's
one of the
worst.
He's
worse in the NFC East.
But that's the thing. Having an elite wide receiver, or what looks like the makings of an elite wide receiver, will really help make your life easier, right?
Yes.
Because Malik Nabers, he became the first player in NFL history with 20-plus receptions, 250-plus receiving yards, and 3-plus receiving touchdowns in his first 3 career games. Now, we already talked about how he'd broken Mike Evans' record for being the youngest to get multiple touchdowns in a game. Now you see that, at least through the first 3 games, Malik Nabers is having a historic start to his NFL career.
Oh, yeah, man. Again, I can't say any more about him because, you'll see it. You'll see the speed, the dynamic athleticism, his ability to grab the ball out of the air. There are guys that let the ball come to them and guys that snatch the ball out of the air. He's one of those. However, Kevin, when we're talking about the numbers for Daniel Jones, the Cowboys have allowed just 55.8% completion rate to wide receivers this season. That's 3rd best.
Okay. Is that because teams are like, we do not need
Nobody
to throw
needs
the
to
ball
really throw the ball against
more than
Cowboys
15 times against the Cowboys? So
yeah, pretty much.
That's what I'm concerned about defensively, or I guess offensively for the Cowboys. Here's what I'm concerned about. And you can preface all this by saying it was against the Browns, and I understand that. But Cleveland had 217 net offensive yards against the Giants. That is the fewest yards given up in the tenure of Brian Daboll as head coach of the Giants. And then there's this, as there continues to be concerns about the offensive line. The Giants had 8 sacks against the Browns. That's their highest total in 10 years. And you look at the breakdown from Dexter Lawrence. Obviously, we'll talk more about him in just a second. But Burns, Ojulari, Pinnock all got in there. Thibodeau even got half a sack. But it was distributed among 9 different players who were not only getting pressures, but they were getting at least a partial sack on the quarterback. That feels alarming as we continue to have questions about the new look offensive line.
You did mention, though, to preface that, the Cowboys also had their most pressures the whole season against Cleveland. So I will say
Looks like Cleveland's terrible.
Cleveland's bad. The Cowboys haven't looked good the last 2 weeks. However, Dak was able to create that fourth quarter comeback because he had just enough time to get some passes off. So I think that the Giants will try to attack Dak. They will try to get to him multiple times throughout the game. I was a little, if you've gone back and watched the offensive line a little bit, I was a little more pleased with Guyton than I thought. There were still some errors. There's still some errors. But I was a little more pleased with some things that I needed to see him progress at, and he has. So I'm okay with a couple things. He is, I think, when Mike McCarthy says it, when Jerry says it, when Steven says it, they are right. There are areas of this team that are still a work in progress. Dak and CD's connection is a work in progress that was screwed over. The offensive line is a work in progress because they have to grow up and be better together. Seeing Tyler and Zach Martin go down a little bit was not something that I expected, but I do think that they can keep it together against this Giants defensive front.
It's going to be a really weird world where Zach Martin is just like a good player and not an ass-kicking machine player.
And then what do you do? Because I know money-wise you've got that all figured out, but
they're in trouble.
But replacing that is not easy. I mean, just look, they've been trying to replace Travis Frederick for a while now.
Yes, that's a great point. And look, we talked a lot about salary cap yesterday in general. We talked about it some with Stephen Jones. Here's my concern, the way you're going to look at it, Corey. If you're like, hey, how are you going to replace Zach Martin? Well, if he retires, then you not only have to replace him, I think the hit's like $17 million that he still hits up against your cap.
So you're going to have to replace him cheap?
Yeah.
And draft a guard?
I'm
or maybe
sure
TJ Bass is ready to replace him.
I mean, that might be the direction that it goes. Now, a potential advantage for the Cowboys. I know we just talked about the concern about the connection between CD and Dak thus far, but the Giants have had some issues in their secondary from an injury point of view. So Drew Phillips left early in that game against Cleveland. Jackson left late in the first half. So they had to use I think it's Cordell Flott. Sorry if it's Float. My apologies for not double checking that. He moved from the slot over to corner, and then they took somebody who got some snaps in the defensive backfield that they moved him up from the practice squad the day before. So, like, the Giants were having to shuffle, and with the quick turnaround, you kind of wonder how sort of hobbled they still might be in the defensive backfield.
Yeah, Nick McLeod trying to figure out where he is in this place too. Yeah, okay, then take advantage of that.
I'm with you.
If Tom Brady said last week was a Dak game, then this needs to be a Dak game.
Does it need to be a CD game too?
It needs to be a CD game. And I agree with Sean from this morning a lot on this. And Bobby and RJ were on this as well. They got to find another receiver. Brandon Cooks at this point is a good number 3 deep threat for you.
Yeah.
If you can get him open. But in today's game, the way defenses are like, we're not playing single high. We're playing 2 high safeties. We're just committing to this. It's tough to get Brandon Cooks open in that way. So you got to find another person. We'll discuss that more, I believe, at 12:20 today. But yeah, man, you got to find that person to be able to help this out if you really want to take advantage of CD, because you look at how many times CD was bracketed and double covered and all that. It's going to happen if you have no other weapons to draw that away from him.
And so then the question comes up, how many yards are the Giants going to run for against the Cowboys? I guess good news, but this kind of might be like the
212.
Oh my God! Then you're
because Daniel Jones is running for 40
that game,
right? Daniel Jones is running for 40, 45.
I could see that. Don't you think if you give up 212 yards rushing, you are going to lose the game?
If you play offensively the way that you have, yes.
Okay, so the Giants are slightly below average team-wise in terms of rushing this season. Now, unfortunately, the Cowboys are way, way below average, sitting at 29th and 30th in terms of yards per game and average carry per game. But the reason why I bring that up is hopefully that won't expose one of your huge weaknesses at the moment. But then again, the analogy I was going to use for the Rangers is, how many times have you seen a run-of-the-mill pitcher look like freaking Cy Young when he goes out there against the Rangers? And so that's what I'm worried about. I'm worried about that you're going to see what thus far has been a mediocre rushing attack go wild on the Cowboys.
Can I use a Mavericks example also?
Oh, yeah. We got to come up with a Stars one.
Remember, well, I don't have a Stars one, but
they scored with 0.2 seconds left.
The Mavericks, weren't they called season high one year because it would always be somebody's season high and somebody you hadn't heard of? You'd be like, oh my gosh, this guy had a season high again, or career high. So I'll go with that analogy as well.
So what I'm hearing from Corey is season high and 212 yards rushing given up. That's what I'm hearing.
Until they've proven to me that they fixed it, then I can't believe that it won't leak like this. Like this is a ship that's in a bad situation, and they haven't shown they can fix it at all. A team embarrassed them 2 weeks ago, and they were like, all right, well, we didn't have a better outing the next week. So there's no way I can believe that they've fixed it until somebody goes at them, much like with the Saints. They go play Philadelphia, now they look pedestrian.
Yep.
So like when I see it, then I'll believe the Cowboys can actually do it. What I do wonder, though, this is the thing that hasn't happened yet. Can the Cowboys have a couple of moments? Because it feels like Daniel Jones might want to throw, all right? So let's say you do get the ball to start, and you do score a touchdown to open. Then you get an interception, and you get another opportunity to put 3 points on the board. Now you're up 10-0. Does New York panic and say, we got to go away from the run to try and catch up with the Cowboys? That's what the Cowboys have been for the last few years.
Yeah.
They're a front-running team. They get out to leads. They suppress you with pass rush, and they suppress you with the ability to say, we're 2 touchdowns, 2 scores ahead of you right now. Good luck catching up to it.